Hello everyone, I think we're live. Welcome to Comms Room 101, a session which I think will be really good fun actually. It's brilliant to see so many people on this event. I was just having a look at how many attendees we've got, and I counted, I think it's between 40 and 50, so we're going to have a lot of gripes today, I think. But I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Steve Hayes, I'm Head of Communications at Citizen. We've got a brilliant panel here today. This is going to be a lot of fun. For those of you who may know Room 101, I'll just very quickly explain, as I've mentioned. But essentially, it's a place to banish your worst nightmares, your worst things that you encounter. Probably best to stick to comms today. I mean, there's lots of you want to put in there. I think we'll stick mainly to comms, just to be on the sport side. But you know, I feel a bit like either Paul Merton or I think it was Frank Skinner, wasn't it, who showed the latter thing. I had a look myself. Only recently did I realise that Room 101 actually comes from 1984, the George Orwell novel, and it's effectively a torture chamber. So that's what we're in today. We're in a torture chamber. And what we're going to do first of all, see how this will work. We want this to be as interactive as you like, really. So we're going to go through our panel and hear their gripes. And I've been given the esteemed role of judging whether it goes into Room 101 or not. So I feel quite powerful today. So I'm going to wield that power. But, you know, please do put your own through. Use the chat facility, and I'm going to start. I think my internet's a little bit fragile, so apologies if I'm dipping out. I'm going to start by introducing Lisa Potter. Lisa's going to go first. Lisa is Head of Communications at the Law Society of Scotland. Lisa, tell us what do you want to put in Room 101?
So this is really difficult. I was saying backstage that I have spoken to my team to try and get some ideas, and it basically unleashed an avalanche. It was a bit of a therapy session yesterday that ended up being a text messaging session that went into the night. So there are a lot that we could choose, but the one I think I'm going to go for is asking communications colleagues to come up with a name for something. So just because we're creative, that means we can come up with this snappy title that is going to sum everything up, normally before they've even considered what it is it's actually going to do. The worst example that I have of this is in a previous role, where on a train journey, a service manager decided that she wanted this new project that she was developing to be called Reach. And then she decided Reach had to stand for something. And so I was asked to come up with what the letters REACH would stand for before they'd even decided what the actual team was going to deliver. So I would like to put coming up with names for something in Comms Room 101.
Oh, it's a great example. And that your example there is what's known technically as a backronym.
Yep.
People love a backronym. There are some absolutely fantastic examples of that. I mean, I'm gonna say straight away that that's going straight into Room 101 without any doubt. I bet the other panelists have had similar requests, and I certainly have. The idea that you would start with an acronym and work backwards is quite extraordinary, really, isn't it? So that's a good one. Thanks, Lisa. Really good one to kick us off there. Let's move on now to Naomi Smith. Naomi Smith, who is an account executive at Westco. Good morning, or good afternoon even. It's a good job I know what time of day it is, isn't it? Good afternoon, Naomi. Come on, let's hear it then. What's your what do you want to banish forever? Oh, are you on? Is it just me that can't hear Naomi? I think you might be on mute, Naomi. We need the t-shirts. I'm still not hearing you. I think let's move on. We'll come back to Naomi because we're having a bit of technical difficulties. I feel like feel like a BBC News 24 presenter now. So sorry about that, Naomi. We will come back to you. Let's move on to Nick Cullen from PA Housing.
Hello, hi everybody. So like everyone else, I've got a list this long of things that I need to get into Room 101. But I think the one I'm going to start with is the use of either Comic Sans or Times New Roman. Massive bugbear. There are millions of fonts and typefaces. Comic Sans doesn't make things look friendly or comic. There's just no need for it, particularly when you have corporate fonts and corporate branding. So please banish both Comic Sans and Times New Roman.
Yeah, I think we can extend that as well, can't we? We're having a little chat backstage, weren't we, about, I think it was Caroline who mentioned being in a doctor's surgery recently and seeing they're the worst culprits, aren't they, for multiple signs. And I'm sure I've seen Comic Sans used in GPs before, but yep. It's not even just the Comic Sans, it's clashing fonts, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 10 fonts on one poster or one document.
Yeah, and bold red and underlining as well. Yes. It just freaks me out. Well, have you actually ever seen Comic Sans used by a colleague, Nick?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be sent things regularly saying, "Can I put this poster up on a communal notice board?" And it's obviously been done in Word. It's just Comic Sans, a bit of clip art in there as well, which is also on my list of things to banish. Yeah. And I know not everyone is maybe as creative as everyone kind of on the panel and here today. But yeah, that's why we have brand guidelines and why we have corporate fonts and colours and imagery and yeah. See, so Emma, thank you. Yes, let's ban clip art.
Yeah, absolutely. Comic Sans is getting so much love here. So Catherine Martin, Comic Sans definitely, and some of that weird word art that pops up all over the place.
Yes. Yeah.
Tila, Comic Sans is the font du jour in school. Yeah. Which I do rehearsals at school. Well, when rehearsals are happening for amateur theatre, and I can't help but it still freaks me out when I'm in a hall and I look at the wall and just see something in Comic Sans or similar. Yeah. It is a school. It's very much a school's font. Let's ban clip art is a campaign, isn't it? That's got to be a hashtag to start. But yeah,
I think, Steve, if you're not going to let it in, I think I want agreement from everyone today that if it doesn't go in, we need a bit of a Comic Sans revival. Let's try and bring it back. Get everyone to change their corporate font to Comic Sans.
Right, it's going in. It's going in. You've won. You've won. Okay, Nick. I'm not having that. I can't live with that. I just can't. No, well done. That's a really good one. So in goes Comic Sans, and I think along with it, clashing fonts, and the use of about 10 fonts on a single document. Thanks, Nick. That was brilliant. We've had a bit of backronym bans as well, I think, since Lisa's suggestion. So somebody came up with a really good one that spelled pies. Here we go. Passion, innovation, excellence, and success.
Nice.
Pies. Because we talk about backronyms, but actually I think sometimes people do that. They come up with, they're like, oh, this is a combination of consonants and vowels. And then they get to the end of it and they're like, yeah, well, it's pies. Yeah, well, that has nothing to do with it, does it? So well done. But now anyone can come up with a word. Right, okay, brilliant one from Nick. Get some brilliant banter coming through the chat, so keep that coming. Let's move on now to our next panelist, and I'm going to bring in Caroline King now. Good afternoon, Caroline. Talk to us. Tell us what your gripes are. I think you're going to be I don't think you'll be backwards in coming forwards on this one.
Funnily enough, not. So I had, when I was a head of comms, bizarrely, I also ran a facilities team, which is an interesting sort of combination. So I had the unenviable task of trying to help, and you mentioned it before backstage, Steve, to help a facilities team of very transactional, straight to the point, straight talking blokes to communicate messages. So what I want to banish is, those stupid instructional messages that are aimed at 4 people out of a workforce of 80. 800. But it's things like stack the dishwasher nicely, make sure you put the lid on the sugar, and little signs and sellotape on perfectly painted walls just appear. The worst one was someone came to me, and excuse me for this because it's a bit hideous. Someone saying we need a campaign because people aren't using the sanitary bins properly. That was got to be the lowest point of my whole comms career. And then someone had had an accident once in the toilet out of the 17 years I worked in the company, and there was like another campaign for respecting bathrooms, but literally everyone knew the 2 or 3 culprits of all aforementioned things. It would have been easier to just speak to them, see if they needed any support or whatever, rather than every time I came into the room, the door that I had to swipe through, there was like a daily to-do list. When I stopped managing these mad people, their communications just regressed with clip art, the fonts, the glows, the shadows, to really emphasize those hideous points. So yeah, I suppose it would be messages that are aimed at 2 or 3 people, but actually beamed across the whole world repeatedly and are offensive in how they are executed. And I will now breathe.
I think that's there's so much to pick up on there. But the first thing I'm thinking of is I'm trying not to, but it's hard not to imagine a poster now that's part of your campaign for the sanitary towels thing that uses both Comic Sans and clip art. I'm perturbed about that. I'm going to have nightmares about that.
Do you want me to tell you the solution? The solution we had to, I wouldn't describe it as a solution. It was just the only thing we could come up with. We had to get these, those toilet roll dispensers that every office have, the big plastic ones where you have to take the thing off to shove a toilet roll in or feed the toilet roll through. We had to get specially customized stickers that fitted into the grooves of this thing that reminded of people of all the standards, which I knew was ludicrous, but it shut the other party up. And unfortunately, as we know in comms, sometimes you can go through the path of least resistance and you end up giving in and saying, right, I'll give you something just to tell you to get lost and stop talking to me about it.
Absolutely. No, I think I'd love to suggest, I'm not going to, but I'd love to suggest people come up with some potential strap lines for that campaign. But it could be, it's still fairly early in the afternoon, and maybe it's one for later. But please do, send me a DM on Twitter if you think of anything on that, because I think we could together, the expertise in this room and the attendees, we could probably come up with a pretty good campaign on that, really. Even though it's utterly useless, as you say, really. We get lots of kind of passive aggressive facilities. It comes with the territory, I think, doesn't it? They're lovely people as well, but it just feels like it's a cultural thing, isn't it? If you're a facilities person, you have to send slightly passive aggressive. There was somebody mentioned on the chat, actually, Teela, I think it was. There was a thing on Twitter a few weeks ago. Some guy posted, and he got a lot of love, actually. He was a PR guy, and he got a similar request for a campaign around toilet.
I saw that.
Toilet etiquette, wasn't it? I think. It's the idea. You need a campaign for that,
That's right.
Some good stuff coming through here. Leslie Ullman, definitely lead story for the bog standard. I like that. Very good. Very good indeed. Well, Caroline, I think you guys are making this very hard for me, actually. I can't not put that in, can I really? It was so well articulated, and I think something that everybody in this room will probably have encountered in some form or another. Either they'd be a recipient of one of those notices or they've been asked to do something. So really good one, Caroline. Thank you for that. And that's definitely going straight in. So let's move on to our next panelist. Keep your chat stuff coming through, some really good stuff, and we'll catch up with that when we come to an end. And you can have your own suggestions that we'll have a look at as well. I'm going to bring in Helen Reynolds now, who has probably the best job title I think I've ever seen, actually. If you have a look at Helen's profile here, you'll see she's a cat butler, which is, you've really broadened out there, Helen. You already do a lot of things, but I'm really impressed by that. Talk to me, Helen. I think you're going to have some good stuff here. What would you like to put into Room 101?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I thought the cat butler thing, you may as well put the thing that you do most in your life as your main role, is it? Well, I suppose some of you may guess the kind of where I'm going to go if anyone's seen my kind of cartoons, which is basically everything in my head that I want to moan about into cartoon form. I'm going to go for, can you put this on all the socials, please? Which is the kind of request that you get from someone who hasn't got a clue about social media, and they would like you to spread the word and hopefully make go viral a report that's about strategic engagement with stakeholders, or something really sexy like that everyone wants to know about. And it's this kind of thing where it's like, okay, you want me to put this on all the socials, right? Shall I put your PDF document onto Pinterest? Shall I stick it into MySpace? Do you want me to put it everywhere? Like, shall I go into every Facebook group on the planet and put it in there? Like, you don't know. If you don't know, come to me and we'll talk about what you want to achieve and we'll find the best channels for it. So that's me when I'm like in a good mood and haven't got PMT. That's my response to, can you put this on all the socials, please? And it treats the comms role like we're just kind of a bunch of post boxes that just take bits of information, deliver them to the right people, which is not what we are, is it? Is it?
No, I think it's a good one, Helen, and I think people agree with you. You've got here loads of chat around this. MySpace, someone has mentioned, that's a retro one, isn't it? Put it on MySpace. Make it go viral. Make it go viral is one that's been said a lot here as well. But what I love about that is put it on the socials is the idea that, you know, you can put something on LinkedIn and your customer Facebook and it's going to land the same way. I mean, you know, so for example, like, you know, and I know a lot of people on this call have done it. We did those little care packages for staff. And I'm like, well, obviously on LinkedIn, we want to promote, we've done this. I can just imagine if I put that on our customer Facebook page and said, oh, look, we sent all our staff a lovely little package with biscuits and coffee in it, you know.
Yeah, that's going to inflame people, and rightly so, you know, like it's that thing though, because we're able to understand context and we've got a fairly sophisticated view of our audiences, we can kind of instinctively know this stuff. But I think because we don't always tell people the complexity of the decisions that we make every day, our colleagues think that we are just these kind of fluffy individuals that go around saying retweet all the time, and they're like, yeah, hashtags, I know what you guys talk about. Like, we don't just go around saying hashtag. but
But that's how they see us, Hel. You know, that's the reality, isn't it? It's another brilliant example, I think, of people thinking, you know, everybody thinking they can do comms, which would definitely go in my room 101. You know, I would never venture to do a repair in someone's house personally, because it would be a disaster. But everybody wants to have a go at socials, don't they? You're getting a lot of love here. So you've got Lisa Potter said, it's even better when it's a PDF they want to put on social. And then you've got, what else have we got? We've got, I'm not a post box, I'm a human being, from Claire Parker. I like that. Can we use Snapbook? And Keith Riley, Reddit is perfect for this. I mean, Reddit and MySpace, we've gone seriously retro here. I'd love to know what a housing association is supposed to put on Reddit. I think we've lost Helen there. I thought it was my internet for a second, but I think we've lost Helen. But at least she got her. She's probably gone off to tend to the cat, I imagine, at this point. So thanks for that, Helen. And I'm going to move now to Sophia Can. Let's bring you in, Sophia. Let's hear about your gripes. What would you like to put in room 101?
Well, I think you've covered most of them. So Helen had the same example as me, where they say, you know, can you just tweet it, or can you just put it out there? So I've had a quick think for something else, because it's good to try and cover all bases if we can. So mine is when you get asked to get it in magazines or national, can we get national coverage for this? And you go, yeah, let's have a look at it. And when they give you it, it's a campaign that's all done and ready, and they've only told you about it today, and it's going live tomorrow, and it's only live for a week. So trying to explain how magazines work, and you do it all the time. You know, I've given presentations where you say these are long lead titles and what that means and how they plan ahead, and we need to plan ahead as well. But you just get it again next time. It's like, this is going live tomorrow. Can you get it on Jeremy Vine's show? So that's my pet peeve.
It's a really good one, and I think you've covered a multitude of sins there. people not appreciating how the media works is something that is a bugbear for me all the time. But it's the time critical nature of it, I think, is one. The other thing is, and if again, I'm sort of passively putting my own things in Room 101 here, but I would have chosen the phrase "it's innovative," which is a similar thing, really. Is that, this will definitely get in inside housing. It's innovative, or the trade publication or whatever that you guys represent, it will definitely get in there. Always means it definitely won't. Like 99% of the time, it means it definitely won't. And it's that thing of it's innovative. Actually, it's not. It's mundane. Like that's all right as well, because a lot of the work we do from day to day, all organisations, is mundane fundamentally, because it has to be, because it's just providing services. So, but trying to get that across to other people can be rather difficult.
Getting the time right, yeah.
And we've got a lot of love for this, Sophia. I should have said that Helen, well done. Yours got into Room 101 as well before you got cut off. She's in Wales, Helen, so we'll forgive her. They're a bit stuck in the dark ages there in terms of internet. I can't talk, by the way. My internet keeps cutting out. It's awful. So that was a joke. I'm not anti-Welsh at all. I love Welsh people. I lived there for a year. So, but anyway, before I dig that hole deeper. We've got Emma Wanacott from North Devon Homes. Can you do a press release for that? That's the classic phrase, isn't it? A press release for, like, I don't know, some sort of little get together or something. Yeah, that'll Inside Housing will cover that one for sure. National coverage, and it's the least unique thing that's ever happened, Caroline King says, and that is absolutely bang on. Often not even just a little bit mundane, but utterly trivial and mundane. Bless them. There is a point there, isn't there, about, for I suppose part of this session is, mostly it's just about moaning. But if we can have a constructive solution to some of this, I often find people will come to me and say, this will get national coverage. And it won't. So your job really is to come up with an alternative for them, And often that's, I'll do you a feature on the intranet, or, we can probably do some social around it, or we could do a comment piece on this. There's normally a way around it, but very rarely is it, BBC breakfast worthy. Frankly, if you work at a housing association or wherever you work, and you've got something that could get on BBC breakfast, you're doing a bloody good job. It's very rare. In fact, most of the time, if you ended up on BBC breakfast, it would probably be for the wrong reason. So we got some more. Do a TikTok about it, and then Jeremy Vine will pick it up from Andrea at DWP. I love that. Was that the chief exec or somebody who asked for that? What on earth would you put on TikTok? I want to be on this morning to talk about my product that doesn't exist yet. That I can feel your pain in that comment from Sonal, their communications consultant. Kaylee Worsley says this is also true. Also said by the same people who also think that anything they don't like can instantly be removed from the internet, which is another one we get a lot, isn't it? Yeah. Can you just, contact Google about that? There's so much love for that. I can't actually keep up with it. So, that has to go in. That has to go in. Caroline King, the red sofa eluded me in 18 years in social housing. Yeah, I think I don't hold out much hope for myself either there. The red sofa's eluded me in all jobs thus far. I've been close a couple of times working for charities, but never quite got there. So right, let's try Naomi again. I can see Naomi. Let's see if we can bring her in this time. Talk to us, Naomi, please. My fingers are crossed.
Can you hear me?
We can. Brilliant.
Ooh, okay.
You're on.
Love the emojis. Thank you. Thanks for bearing with me. So, Sophia, I share the same one in terms of an entry for CommsHero Room 101, but I'll talk about it a little bit from a different perspective. So it is along the lines of, can we release a press release? And this was particularly prevalent when I was working for the National Union of Students, where we had obviously enthusiastic students that were running campaigns. I represented 7 million students as well. So that's my one. And the reason why is because the questions I always ask is, what's the hook? How does it relate to the campaign and our overall strategy for the year? What supporting assets do you have? And it ties into what people were saying as well. Like, you can't just send a PDF. Journalists hate PDFs. Like, how are we going about this? What is going to make this stand out versus other press releases? Because journalists get spammed so much. it's actually ridiculous. What's the intended impact? And what journalists are you targeting? Because we can't just spam our Viewlio database with your press release, which isn't really that well developed. So that's something that I've had to work on in terms of from an influence perspective, particularly with like, you know, enthusiastic and young and passionate people. And that has followed me to local government, unfortunately. But yeah, similar to Sophia's, and the kind of final point I want to say to that is that as comms people, we produce a lot, including press releases, but we also have an advisory role, which is like internal, and you know, speaking to people about what the comms role is, and also educating people about how comms really works, because they don't necessarily have that level of knowledge, because we are specialists essentially. So there's always hard work to be done in this area, and that's my submission.
Yeah, I think it's a very good one, a very good one. We've got, again, some more love for this. So Tila Clayton, I hate being asked to chase press releases about rubbish stuff weeks later. That's the worst nightmare of any. I remember when I worked at an agency and you're doing that on behalf of someone in full knowledge that it ain't getting in, you know, but you've been paid to do it, you know, and it's like, oh my God, you know, and you can advise as much as you want, but ultimately, yeah, I think you're really right as well, is there's no point in, for the most part, I think, there's a lot of debate about press releases, and some people go, there's no use in them. I don't agree with that. But what I do agree with is you've really got to tailor it to where you're sending it. I mean, very rarely is a press release going to get you anything in Inside Housing on its own. You know, you might want to send it and follow it up. But actually, more often than not, for Inside Housing, you've got to make sure, first of all, don't just put them on your distribution list, because they'll just get annoyed, to be honest. If Inside Housing's on your general, I keep using housing examples because I forget, but let's broaden this out. Whatever the trade publication that you're sending stuff to is, just don't have them on your press release distribution list for everything, because it's pointless, to be honest. You've got to have an appreciation of what each of those medias are going to be wanting to pick up, and you've got to be willing to pick up the phone or drop a couple of line email to your contact there. That's the way you'll get stuff in, and that's the way you'll progress stuff. It's not by sending press releases. You know, I know people that, again, I'm using the housing example, but development press releases to Inside Housing, don't bother. Just don't bother, please. Instead, go to their Development of the Week feature and write it like that and send it across to them, and then you'll probably get it in. Do the work for them, because they don't have time to do it. But that's a really good one, Naomi. And again, I think it's a full house. It's a full house, you know, because I like being popular. So, but no, they're all such good suggestions. I think let's open it up now. So that's all about panelists. While we're doing that, so what I'd like is put your own through. If you've got any that haven't been mentioned, start putting them through in the chat, and we'll come to those. But what I'm going to do in the meantime is, because obviously this is, you know, it's obviously a bit of fun, but it's also about sharing best practice, isn't it? We've sort of gone into a bit of the, what would you do as an alternative? How would you coach that person or brief that person who's asked you that? So let's go back to Lisa now. We started with Lisa Potter. And Lisa, your gripe was being asked to come up with a name for something, or someone comes up with a backronym. How would you, when that happened, or if that happened, what would you have said to that person as an alternative way to get that done? How would you have coached and advised them?
So the example that I gave of having the name Reach come up with on a train, so I did is go to the project group and ask them to have a session where we actually got the senior manager who had come up with that, and basically did a focus group session with them, brainstorming of what is it you want to achieve and work backwards from that rather than do the name. It was a very painful session, and we kept having, I ended up putting in the middle of the whiteboard, what is it that the team is going to achieve as the main point to keep coming back to all the time, because it kept going back to, oh yeah, no, you're right, but what if we called it this? And oh, what if we did leaflets this way? Go, but what is the team trying to achieve is the main thing. So yeah, I think it's, when people come to us for those things, it's an opportunity to have a conversation, but it's not always easy to have that conversation.
It's a really good point, Lisa. Thanks. I think what you've demonstrated there is a thing that happens a lot with colleagues in the business. Is they're often 4 or 5 steps further down the line than they should be before we are engaged. and it's the bringing them back to the objective. What's the objective? What are we actually trying to achieve here? And taking a step further than that, actually, and saying, and how does that feed into the business strategy for the organization? Because that's the test for me a lot of the time, is if I can't connect those things up, there's a real discipline for comms professionals, which is, why am I being asked to do this? And sometimes you've just got to suck it up and do it if it's the chief exec or an exec director asking for it. But most of the time, that's something we have to do. So thanks for that. Nick, come on, let's hear about what you'd say to someone. Let's imagine you've just had a request straight after this meeting now, probably from a colleague.
I will do. I've just read Claire's comment. That's hilarious. Can you wave your comms wand? Claire's comment saying, I'm often asked to wave your comms wand or weave your comms magic. The look on their face when I tell them I'm actually a white witch is priceless. Because I get that all the time as well. Can you just comms this? Can you wave your wand? Anyway, sorry. What I try to do at my place is just stress the importance of branding, and that it ties everything that we do together. You know, you wouldn't look at Virgin or HSBC or any of kind of big household names and see them not sticking to their corporate colours or their fonts or their tone of voice or all of those things. So it's trying to get them to think about it in that same way. Just because, you know, again, like you, just because I work in housing, it doesn't mean that that's any less important. So yes, we have brand guidelines, we have style guides, we have all kinds of things, but they're not just documents that sit on the intranet in the hope that people find them. You know, we share them regularly. We offer kind of drop-in sessions so that people can come and speak to us about things, and just really trying to reinforce it. So, you know, at PA, our corporate colours are blue and purple. So no, you can't have everything bright orange, because that's not who we are. So yeah, it's really just trying to reinforce how important it is that we're recognisable straight away for our customers or our stakeholders or whomever it is.
Yeah, it's constructive stuff, isn't it? You know, because I think that's the difference between when you're being seen as the brand police versus actually a very constructive point, which is, you know, and I take the time to explain it to someone if they disagree with you on something. It's kind of taking that time to say, well, actually, look, this is a reason why we have brand guidelines. It's consistency. It's audiences recognizing us. It's all of those things. You know, I'm not just doing this to be awkward, because I think sometimes people think we are. So
yes.
We've got a few minutes left. I'm going to come back to Caroline. You did briefly, Caroline, mention what you did, which was a really good point about giving a little to avoid doing a lot. Anything else you'd say about how you dealt with some of those requests that you get through the likes of facilities, which often have a very important point underneath them somewhere, don't they?
Yeah, well, obviously I had quite a unique way of dealing with it. First of all, I would go around the whole building taking down all the signs and unpeeling the sellotape and things like that. So there was so basically I'd get in early enough so no bugger ever saw the signs anyway. And then I would end up, and it goes back to what the other guys have just been saying, I'd end up finding some example from another organisation of message with impact, message with no impact, and have to do some semi-patronising lesson, which I tried not to make patronising, but I was so frustrated because they were my team. I felt it reflected on me and the comms team, so I took it particularly personally. So I used to try and sort of like re-educate them in some way, and I ended up doing templates. So we ended up trying to be as constructive as we could. So there was sort of set things they could use that almost had tiny amount of space to limit them, but it was just an ongoing burden till the day I left, to be honest, because like you say, people like that who aren't comms people and they're not communicators, they're always going to do sort of things that we would all consider to be dodgy in funny fonts and, you know, and all that sort of thing. So you've got to try and give them some tools to work with, but if in doubt, just take down everything that they've done. And then get a sticker for the toilet roll dispenser. If you have any sanitary bin issues, that's definitely a top tip for the day.
I think you might get a few requests for the artwork for that, Caroline. Actually, I might drop you a line myself. Thanks for that. No, really problem. Good point. Really good point. I think I think a lot of the time it's remembering that people come at you with a sound intention, don't they? Even though your instinct is to be irritated. Actually, a lot of the time it's not coming from a bad place, is it? You know, and actually just taking the time to realise that and kind of go back with an alternative is quite an important thing, isn't it, really?
The thing is, I was always really nice to them and used to try and sort of sympathetically say, well, what's the thing that's causing you problem or you think's going to be a health and safety issue? Because as you say, the serious messages. So to them, they thought that I was totally cool with it. I'd then go and shut my office door, turn me back on the glass window and just like inwardly scream for 5 minutes because it was so annoying. But no, I was always nice to them because I always think in comms, you can always help people to communicate better. That is our higher role in life, I think.
No, I agree, and that's where the real win is, I think. And when you actually take something that someone thought they wanted to do and you make it better and you help them meet the objective that they've got that they maybe didn't even realise they had really. So no, thanks for that, Caroline. Really good. So I think we're almost out of time. Actually, our other speakers did an excellent job we lost Helen. As I say, she's in Wales, bless her. We lost Helen, but Sophia and Naomi kind of did this bit on their bits anyway. But let's just have a look at a few more comments before we finish. I think Asif's going to join us any moment to cut me off and call time on Room 101. I've used enough power, I think, for one day. I don't want to get power mad. But some really good ones coming through on the chat. Amanda Bate, working for a finance organisation. I hated it when people slapped on a crappy non-brand out-of-order sign on the ATM. When all the problem was it wasn't displaying statements. Still dispense money, grr. Yeah, just let the machine tell them that. You know, you don't need a big sign on it, do you? And there's a lot of chat about Nick's running medals as well. So if people want to catch up with that, you know, please do. But I think that brings us almost perfectly to the end. So what I want to do is say a massive thank you to all of the panelists who came. You know, you beat me. You know, I was coming in cynical thinking I'm going to shut some of these down, but they were all fantastic. And the weight of kind of opinion behind them in the chat just made it a foregone conclusion, really. So I've really enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun. I hope everybody enjoyed having a little moan. It's healthy to do that from time to time, but also talk about some ways to kind of deal with some of these situations when they come up as well. So I'll hand over to Asif now to move things forward. Thanks, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Fantastic session there, Steve. Well chaired, diplomatic as ever. Thank you to the esteemed panel as well. Delighted you could join us, and the participation from all the audience as well with your comments in the live chat. So I put in the live chat that we are going to, this session was just too good to just leave here. So we're going to put it on our season 2 of the CommsHero podcast. So you'll be able to relive this and hopefully add some more entries to it, and so that'll be released at some point in February. So a massive thank you to the panel there. Please show those guys some emoji love now, including Steve as well. So thank you very much indeed, everyone. So the rest of the day, we're going to go back to virtual networking now. So you get the chance to chat to a few of your colleagues, peers, other CommsHero people. We'll be back at 1:15 with our resident CommsHero fitness guru, Frank Sinclair. So get those hamstrings stretched. Please join in. Tweet pictures of you doing that, videos of you doing that as well. Let's show everyone. Come to the next one. Like I said, we've got Rebecca Sangster Kelly at 1:30 and then 1:45. Some more CommsHero swag to give away. So don't miss that. Elliot and I will be back for that. So recharge glasses. We'll see you again for next session, 1:15, but table networking in the meantime. Thank you, everyone.